Welcome. I am so incredibly glad you decided to join us today because we have a mission, and it is a pretty massive one.
It really is.
Yeah. You are about to go on a journey that will, I genuinely believe this, it will fundamentally change the way you look at the world around you, especially, especially how you look at a piece of art. Today, we are doing a deep dive into a brand new, absolutely mind-bending treatise. It is dated today, actually, March 1st, 2026.
Hot off the presses.
Exactly. It's by an author named Z.T. Tosha, and it's titled The Holographic Continuum of Perception and Art.
And I have to say, it is a remarkable piece of writing.
Yeah.
It's incredibly ambitious in its scope.
Oh, completely.
Tosha manages to take several completely different, really complex fields, physics, cognitive science, abstract geometry, and synthesize them into this single cohesive argument about human perception.
And that is exactly why this deep dive is perfectly tailored for you, the listener. If you love those, those aha moments where completely different disciplines suddenly just snap together to reveal a hidden truth. You are going to be thinking about this one for weeks. We're going to explore how the universe actually organizes information and how you are right at the dead center of that process.
Right. And to give you the broader context right up front so you know where we're headed, this text fundamentally challenges how we view time and existence itself.
Yeah, it really goes straight for the foundational stuff.
It does. Tosha's central argument is that the present moment is the absolute, unquestionable, only locus of reality.
The only one.
Right. The past and the future, they simply do not exist as physical places or separate realities. And from that starting point, the text argues that art isn't just, a picture of the world or a representation of something else. Instead, a piece of art is a tiny functioning model of the universe itself. It operates on the exact same structural principles as the cosmos.
Which is such a wild concept, and the author starts this whole massive exploration with a very simple, almost poetic childhood memory.
Yeah, the silent film story.
Right. Tosha describes growing up watching these old silent films, but they weren't projected onto standard movie screens in a theater. They were projected onto large, white, totally still canvases.
Which completely changes the texture of the experience.
Exactly. Now think about what a film actually is. When you strip away the magic of the movies, a film is just a sequence of completely static, individual images.
Right.
It's just a photograph, and then another photograph, then another photograph.
Because there is no actual physical movement happening on that canvas?
Yeah.
None at all.
Zero.
The motion, the rhythm, the overarching narrative, it is all an illusion. It is an emergent effect that is generated entirely by the audience. Your perception as the viewer sitting in that room is what stitches those discrete, still frames together to create a feeling of continuity.
Okay, let's unpack this, because this is where the author poses the question that basically kicks off this entire philosophical journey. What if we could reshuffle those frames? If the movement and the passage of time in that film are just constructs of how our minds organize visual information, what if time itself operates the exact same way?
It's a huge leap.
It is. Tosha is suggesting that the past and the future are just the way your brain is organizing the raw data of the present moment.
And they actually bring in cognitive science to back it up.
Right.
The text relies heavily on something called the predictive processing model of consciousness.
I've heard of this, yeah.
Yeah. It's a major framework developed by figures like Andy Clark and Carl Friston. And here is the basic mechanism behind it. We often assume our brains work like passive video cameras.
Right.
Just sort of recording the reality that unfolds in front of our eyes.
Right, like we're just documenting the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But predictive processing says the reality is completely backwards. Your brain is essentially a prediction machine. It continuously generates models and expectations about what is going to happen next, and then it actively adjusts those predictions based on sensory errors.
Oh, I feel like I experience this sensory error constantly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like my brain predicts that I left my car keys on the kitchen counter. So I walk in, I look at the counter, and the keys aren't there.
Right.
My brain receives an error message, and suddenly I have to update my entire internal model of reality to account for the fact that my keys are lost.
That is a perfect everyday example. When you are anticipating the future, like expecting to see your keys exactly where you left them, you aren't looking into some timeline that stretches out ahead of you into tomorrow. You are just feeling your brain adjusting its internal models right now, entirely in the present moment.
Which makes sense.
What's fascinating here is how the author connects this modern cognitive science to a very ancient philosophical problem.
Aristotle, right.
Yes, Aristotle's sea battle paradox. Aristotle basically asked, if a sea battle will not happen tomorrow, was it already true yesterday that it wouldn't happen?
That feels like a riddle completely designed to give someone a headache.
It really does.
Yeah.
But the paradox only exists because we assume tomorrow is an independent reality. We treat it like a container that holds facts before we even get there.
Right.
And Tosha points out that nobody ever wakes up in tomorrow.
Never.
You only ever wake up in now.
Yeah.
The author includes this brilliant quote from Nikola Tesla to anchor this idea. Tesla said, "The present is theirs. The future, for which I have really worked, is mine."
Oh, I love that quote.
It's great. But Tosha points out that even for Tesla, that future only ever actualized in his present moments of invention, the physical building of the machines.
The text uses a much more grounded analogy to make this relatable, which really helped me grasp it. Think about an acorn sitting in the palm of your hand.
Yeah, the acorn analogy is crucial.
Inside that tiny shell is the entire structural blueprint of a massive oak tree. The leaves, the bark, the vast root system, all of that information is packed in there as latent potential. But that potential does not exist in the future. It exists right now in the physical chemical structure of the acorn.
Exactly. It will only ever physically grow and actualize moment by moment in the present as it interacts with the soil and the water. The future of that tree is just a system of possibilities until the present moment makes it real.
So if the present is the sole locus of reality, the absolute only stage where potential actually happens, how does that invisible potential, like the blueprint of the tree or the idea for a painting, actually take a physical form?
Right.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the text introduces a concept from materials science to explain how meaning takes shape. The author talks about quasi-crystals.
Yes.
And when I first read that, I thought we were getting into some New Age crystal healing territory, but this is hard science.
Oh, it was very hard science.
Yeah.
It was a very well-documented phenomenon in chemistry and physics.
Okay, good.
To understand a quasi-crystal, you first have to understand a regular crystal, like a diamond or a standard grain of salt. Regular crystals have a highly ordered, repeating lattice structure. The pattern just repeats perfectly over and over again into infinity.
Like a checkerboard.
Exactly like a checkerboard. But in 1982, a scientist named Daniel Shechtman discovered physical structures that entirely broke the rules. He found materials that were highly ordered, but they never periodically repeated.
The text mentions they have forbidden rotational symmetries. We are definitely going to need to translate that for those of us who haven't taken a chemistry class in a while.
Absolutely. So think about trying to tile your bathroom floor.
Okay.
If you use square tiles or hexagonal tiles, you can lay them out in a perfectly repeating pattern forever without leaving any empty gaps.
Right.
But imagine trying to tile your floor using pentagons, five-sided shapes. It is geometrically impossible to do it in a repeating pattern without leaving empty spaces.
Okay.
Unless you constantly shift the pattern.
Yeah.
You can fill the floor with pentagons and a couple of other shapes, and it will follow strict mathematical rules, but the overarching design will never repeat itself.
Never.
Never. That is a quasi-crystal. It is a physical structure that is highly organized, but completely unique at every single given point.
So it's this delicate balance between perfect predictability and constant unpredictable novelty. It has local rules, but it outright refuses to fall into a boring, infinite copy and paste pattern.
Precisely. And Tosha brings this up to use it as a framework for understanding art. The author is not saying that a painting or a marble sculpture is made of literal, physical quasi-crystals. The philosopher Mary Hess calls this a material analogy. The argument is that symbols behave like quasi-crystals.
It acts like them.
Yes. A symbol in a piece of art carries meaning specifically because it is a highly ordered structure that balances stability with open-ended novelty.
The author uses a fantastic real-world example comparing a building to a window to explain this relational meaning.
Oh, the architecture analogy.
Yeah. So a building is mostly functional. Its form follows its purpose to keep the rain out and the heat in, and it is largely self-contained. But a window is inherently symbolic and relational.
Right.
It separates the inside from the outside, but it also connects them. It frames a specific view.
And the window's meaning doesn't come from the glass or the wood frame. Its meaning comes entirely from its relationship to its surroundings.
Yes.
Because if you take that exact same window out of the wall and just lay it flat on the grass in your backyard, it completely loses its meaning as a window. It just becomes a piece of glass on the lawn.
Exactly. And the exact same thing is true for a symbol in a piece of art. A symbol's meaning is determined by its relationship to the other symbols on the canvas, to the cultural context around it, and to you, the observer.
It coheres because of those local constraints, just like the bathroom tiles. It means something because it is relationally embedded. It's not just a shape on a canvas. It's a vehicle for information.
So what does this all mean? How does a geometric shape painted on a canvas actually hold energy and information?
That is the core question.
Because when I hear the word information, I immediately think of computer code or data on a hard drive. Are we talking about abstract data here or something
But
physical?
we are talking about the physical nature of information itself. The treatise contrasts two major historical views on this to make its point. Back in the 1940s, Claude Shannon developed the original theory of information.
Right.
For Shannon, information was purely mathematical. It was just a way to measure the transmission of a signal. He deliberately excluded meaning entirely.
Wow.
Yeah, for him, didn't matter if you were transmitting a beautiful poem or a string of completely random letters, only how many bits it took to send it over a wire.
So he was focused entirely on the plumbing, not the water flowing through the pipes.
That is a great way to put it. But Tosha aligns more with the broader historical view, championed by writers like James Gleick, that merges the math with the meaning. And this is anchored by a physicist named Rolf Landauer, who in 1961 proved a principle that still holds up in modern physics today. Landauer proved that information is physical. It is not an abstract concept floating in a cloud.
But how can information be physical? If I delete a photo from my phone, I haven't changed the actual weight of the phone.
You haven't changed the weight, no. But you have changed its thermodynamic state.
Really?
Yes. Landauer proved that erasing a bit of data, or storing a bit of data, requires the dissipation of actual measurable heat energy. You cannot manipulate information without manipulating physical energy. Therefore, information and energy are fundamentally inseparable at the microscopic level.
This completely shifts how I am picturing a piece of art now. When you look at a symbol, that quasi-crystalline structure, balancing order, and novelty we talked about,
Yeah,
you aren't just looking at paint.
right.
You are looking at a localized structure of energetic information. The artist has physically constrained energy on that canvas to encode potential.
And now, Tosha asks us to scale that concept up. If energy and information are inseparable at the local scale of a single painted symbol, what does that imply about the universe at large?
This is where the physics gets truly expansive.
It does. The text introduces the holographic principle.
I have heard this term thrown around in sci-fi movies for years, but I never fully understood the actual science behind it. What is the holographic principle proposing?
It is a theory developed by theoretical physicists Gerard Hooft and Leonard Susskind. To understand it, think about a standard physical hologram, like the shiny sticker on a credit card.
Sure.
It is a flat, strictly two-dimensional surface, but it contains all the information necessary to project a three-dimensional image.
Right.
The holographic principle suggests that the entire three-dimensional universe we experience, all the matter, all the space, the stars, your physical body, might operate on a similar logic. The theory proposes that our 3D reality is essentially a projection of information encoded on a distant two-dimensional boundary.
Basically, the stuff we can touch and feel, matter and gravity, might just be the 3D projection of 2D data.
Essentially, yes.
It's almost like a cosmic barcode creating the physical world. The universe is the ultimate silent film projector, and the 3D reality we walk around in is the illusion created by the sequence of information frames.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we do have to be intellectually careful here. The text explicitly introduces a crucial note of caution from a modern physicist named Sabine Hossenfelder. She frequently warns against taking complex quantum physics concepts and jumping straight to the conclusion that we live in a literal computer simulation and therefore nothing matters.
Right, because that's always where the internet takes it.
Always. But the holographic principle is a highly complex theory about quantum gravity and how black holes store information.
So the author isn't trying to say this is proven, hard physical doctrine for how our daily lives operate. Tosha isn't saying that when you look at a painting, you are literally looking at a black hole's data boundary.
No, absolutely not. Tosha is very clear that this is being used as a conceptual tool. Philosophers like Hans Weinger sometimes call this a useful fiction, or what Kant would call a regulative idea.
A regulative idea.
Right. By viewing the universe as a holographic projection of information, we get a framework to understand how meaning, energy, and form interact. It is an analogy with massive explanatory power designed to help us grasp the sheer scale of what perception actually is.
And that explanatory power all comes back to the core subject of the treatise, art. Because in this holographic framework, art is not just a representation of something else, it is instantiation.
Yes. Representation implies copying something that already exists in the world. Painting a bowl of fruit to look exactly like a bowl of fruit. Instantiation is a radically different concept. It means bringing something into reality for the very first time.
When an artist creates a geometric pattern or a symbol, they aren't magically sprinkling abstract meaning onto a dead piece of canvas. They are shaping, modulating, and constraining actual energy information fields.
Exactly.
They are building a quasi-crystalline structure that holds latent potential, much like the acorn holds the potential of the oak tree, just waiting to be actualized.
And to really map out how this works, the author breaks reality down into 3 cosmic scales.
Yeah.
Visualizing this makes the whole treatise click together perfectly.
Yes, let's go through those.
First, you have the microcosm. This is the physical artwork itself,
Yeah.
the geometric symbols, the lines, the spatial relationships, the quasi-crystalline patterns constrained on the canvas or carved into the stone sculpture.
Then, at the very opposite end of the spectrum, you have the macrocosm. That is the holographic universe itself, the ultimate cosmic scale field of energy information equivalence that we were just talking about, the grand projector.
Precisely. And nestled right between the artwork and the universe is the mesocosm, the mediating layer. And that layer is you.
You, the listener.
Yes, it is human consciousness and perception. You are the entity actively decoding the geometric information of the artwork, translating it from raw physical data into lived experience. This raises an important question. If art is just a localized echo of this cosmic information, what exactly is the role of our consciousness? Are we just passive receivers, like an antenna picking up a radio signal?
Well, if the present moment is the only place reality happens, like we established earlier, then we can't be passive. We have to be the catalyst. Without us, the painting is just constrained energy sitting alone in the dark.
Exactly. In this framework, consciousness is the active circuit completer. Think back to the acorn one last time.
Right.
The potential of the oak tree needs the present moment and the active environment, the soil, the rain, the sunlight, to actualize. Similarly, the quasi-crystalline symbol created by the artist is just latent potential. It requires a conscious observer, you decoding that geometry in the absolute present moment to turn that potential into actual meaning. Without you, the circuit is broken.
So the boundaries between the cosmic, the physical, and the mental completely dissolve in the act of perception.
Completely.
The artwork is a finite form, a constrained boundary of energy, but it encodes infinite relationships. And you, the observer, are the one exploring them. You are the environment that allows the acorn to grow.
It really elevates the act of looking at art from a passive aesthetic experience, just deciding if a painting looks pretty or not, to an active participation in the fundamental architecture of reality. The artwork mirrors the dynamics of the universe, and your perception of it mirrors the actualization of existence itself.
So let's bring all of these massive threads together for you, the listener. What Tosha has done in this treatise is weave a unified tapestry of how we experience the world. Time structures your experience by anchoring you purely in the present moment, constantly predicting and adjusting. Life actualizes your potential in that present moment. Form, acting like a quasi-crystal, organizes the information and energy around you. And art is quite literally the performance of the universe itself, happening right in front of you, scaled down so you can actually interact with it.
It is a profound and incredibly ambitious framework. But as we wrap up, it is worth repeating the author's own caveat so that no one feels overwhelmed by the physics or the math of it all.
Right, it's not meant to be cold and calculating.
Not at all. Tosha explicitly states that calling symbols quasi-crystalline doesn't reduce human experience to an equation, a poem, a painting, a cultural ritual. These things will always exceed pure structural analysis.
Always.
This holographic continuum is a lens to look through, a tool for thinking. It is not meant to be a totalizing system that strips away the mystery or the emotional weight of art.
It doesn't strip away the magic. It gives us a vocabulary to appreciate the mechanics behind a magic. And that leaves me with a final provocative thought that I want you, the listener, to mull over today as you go about your life.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's go all the way back to the very beginning in our deep dive. The idea that memory and anticipation merely scaffold reality, but they don't extend it. The text argues that the present moment is truly the only place where reality physically exists. That means all your past memories, all your regrets, all your future anxieties, and all your hopes. They are not real places. They are just informational projections happening right now in your mind in this exact second.
Only in the present.
If that is true, how does that change the way you interact with the very next piece of art you see? Or even more simply, how does that change the way you perceive the room you are sitting in right this second? Look at the walls, the furniture, the light coming through the window. Every object, every shadow, every line of geometry around you is a field of latent potential, waiting for your consciousness to complete the circuit. You aren't just a passive observer in the universe, you are the mechanism that makes it real.
Beautifully said.
Thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us today. Keep looking closely, and we will catch you next time.